Hey guys, it's Graham. Welcome back to another recap video for Saga of the Forgotten Warrior by Larry Correia. This will cover Book 4, Tower of Silence. After the events of Destroyer of Worlds, the castless rebellion is scattered and the surviving characters have to make do without Ashok in their ranks. Thus, we find them each engaged in their own plans as they wage a war for survival against the government. For sake of ease, I'll track each individual character's arc throughout this book. Understand that their paths cross from time to time, but it's easier to process if you focus on them one at a time. Grand Inquisitor Omand Vakan continues to put his plan into motion to eradicate the casteless and the representative government alike, seizing control of everything. We learn in a flashback that the Inquisition has had a demon in captivity for decades, which they harvest for magic and information. The demon will tell Omand the location of a certain source, in exchange for all of the casteless being killed, as they are the blood descendants of Ram Rowan, the ancient god that defeated the demons the last time they attacked the world. The demon tricks an eager Omand into sending a band of wizards into a trap, where they accidentally activate a sleeping cell of insect-like demons that slaughter and destroy anything living, and are almost impossible to stop. Omand repays this betrayal with a trick of his own, allowing the demon to think that the casteless have been slaughtered, thus learning the location of the source that he's after, north in the jungle. Upon hearing this, the demon activates a spell to notify others of his species that it's time to invade Locke again. Omand isn't quite sure what, but the demons have activated another spell of some kind, and we learn in an epilogue that, perhaps, all fresh water in Locke, even that hundreds of miles inland, has been converted to salt water. Ashok Vidal wakes up on the Isle of Fortress, imprisoned, half-starved, and on trial. The residents think that he's a false Ram Rowan reborn, something they've seen before, and while Ashok doesn't lay claim to the title, he does perform several feats of superhuman strength that lead them to believe he's the real deal. He escapes imprisonment and falls in with a local monk, Dondrub, who gives him the rundown of Fortress's current political and religious divisions. The Isle is rich with technological knowledge, but poor in other resources, especially for creating guns, which they're known for. They got plenty of blueprints, they don't have a whole lot of wood and metal. Dondrub shows Ashok the underground/undersea tunnel that the fortress smugglers use to get to Locke, but it's occupied by a demon god. Ashok slays this creature and takes its head back to Fortress, deposing another false Ram Rowan along the way, although Dondrub dies in the conflict. With the tunnel cleared, Ashok returns to Locke just in time to learn that an enemy house has found the casteless rebels and is about to annihilate them. He rushes into battle and finds their champion, a new black steel sword-bearer named Akursalem. They duel, and for the first time in his life, Ashok is equally matched, as Akursalem's sword gives him the same knowledge and skill that Angruvidal gives to Ashok. In the end, Ashok triumphs and cuts off Akursalem's sword arm, defeating him and ultimately taking up his sword for himself. So, once again, Ashok has an ancestor blade. Kita, the Keeper of Names, continues to lead the casteless rebels as their priest, though the situation continues to worsen. He does his best to fend off Akursalem's forces at the rebels' hiding place, and while he's just a man, he dies heroically against a black steel sword-bearer, leaving the descendants of Ram Rowan without a spiritual guide. This was an incredibly powerful and moving moment in the story. Javed is an Inquisition spy planted among the rebels. He's been feeding information about them to Omand. When two young hunters find him communicating with his master, Javed kills them and hides their bodies, though the act shames him and he eventually struggles with his loyalties. At the end, he's visited by Mother Dawn, a traveling demigod who takes the form of witches and other things, to tell him that her loyalists, the rebels, need a Keeper of Names. He is to fill the void that Kita left behind. However, some of the rebels know what he did, so this will be no small hurdle to overcome. As for the prophetess Thera Vane, she continues to lead the rebellion, though she misses having Ashok at her side, and she has to make do with lesser assets. One of her more key discoveries is that the mute and damaged children she rescued from the House of Assassins are actually capable of magic and are slowly coming back to their senses. She's able to nurture them back to sanity, and they make powerful contributions to the rebels' efforts, helping to destroy aqueducts that deliver water to their enemies. Near the end, she learns that Javed is a traitor, and she sows doubt in him that he's on the right side. Her part of the story ends when she's captured and swept away to be put on trial, only to be intercepted by Deval Macau, a man she ran away from years ago, who is her legal husband. Once again, the fates of warrior Jagdish, scholar Radha, and protector Karno are intertwined. Jagdish is now a high-ranking officer in House Vidal, which faces border invasions from Akursalem and his new army. House leader Harta Vidal wants Jagdish to face Akursalem in open combat with the hope that somebody will kill him and Vidal will once again have an ancestor blade. As a reminder, their sword was Angruvidal, which was lost when Ashok was exiled in Book 1, and the sword later shattered. Radha, meanwhile, communicates from time to time with the black steel mirror that she carries, gifted to her by her late mentor. While made of the same material as the ancestor blades, it performs differently, opening a communication channel to a powerful entity loyal to the Forgotten Gods. Radha and Karno accompany Jagdish and a detachment of his soldiers on an expedition, only to come across the band of wizards that Omand unknowingly sent into a trap. Several of Jagdish's soldiers are killed by the demon insects, which almost overwhelm Karno, and nobody escapes unscathed. Radha appeals to the entity in the mirror, who isn't overly concerned with the humans and their quest, until Radha explains that saving them means they can be useful to the gods later. The mirror then summons up a force field around Jagdish, Radha, and the other survivors, and fires a superweapon from somewhere unknown, obliterating all of the demon insects that were trying to kill them. When they report their findings back to Harta Vidal, he wants to know if this superweapon can be conjured up again and controlled. Radha is more worried about the demon insects and the affairs of the gods as things continue to intensify. As a brief aside, it's these little interactions with the black steel mirror, as well as other elements attached to the Forgotten Gods, that give me the impression that there's something going on other than just fantasy here. We know that the black steel that forms the ancestor blades, as well as similar relics, were taken from Ramrowan's ship a long time ago, but the particular way that the mirror behaves, it's almost like a digital tablet or an iPhone. There's even a countdown screen to the firing of the superweapon. There are certainly magical elements at play in the world of Locke, but some of these black steel pieces behave more like advanced technology from our world. I continue to keep an eye out for these sort of things when they pop up in the story. I'm very excited to see what the reveal will be in the final book as to how all of this works and where it comes from. The character of Lord Protector Devadas has a diminished role in this story, but he's not out of it. Riding high on a wave of popular support after defeating Ashok, he only becomes more useful to Omand and his scheming. When the time is right for a perverse act of governmental subversion, Omand calls for all power to be concentrated in Devadas to deal with the rebel crisis, under the condition that Devadas will, of course, give up his power once the problem is solved. In conclusion, this story covers a scattered cast of characters who do their best to move toward their group goals even without being able to rely on each other. Their determination in the face of brutal obstacles makes it easy to root for them, and the pacing of these books makes it hard to put them down. Up until very recently, Tower of Silence was going to be the penultimate installment in this series, but Larry Correia announced online that the final book has to be split into 2 volumes in order to tie it all up satisfactorily. I don't know about you, but I'm perfectly happy to have 6 books instead of 5 in this series on my shelf. Book 5, Graveyard of Demons, arrives this November. Thank you all for watching this series. I hope you'll subscribe to the channel for more book recaps, book news, book reviews, so on and so forth. You know the deal. Till next time, drive safe. See you out there.